This podcast is for the daydreamers who like imagining new lives and new beginnings but don't quite know where to start. Hi, this is Julian from Rappler and you're listening to Teach Me Senpai. It's National Women's Month this March and International Women's Day is also coming up. So for the entire month of March, we're going to be celebrating women. Episode 10 of this podcast will be about one of the most influential up-and-coming filmmakers of our generation. She is Rae Red. If you enjoy local films, then chances are you've heard some of the titles she has written and or directed. Titles like Babae at Baril starring Janine Gutierrez, Tenement 66 with Francine Diaz and Francis Magundayao, and most recently Roadkillers with Nadine Lustre, which is now available on the Viva One mobile streaming app. I'm going to apologize in advance because I fanboyed so hard in this episode, but how can I not? The woman is a genius. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen her films. We talked about Babae at Baril, Tenement 66, and Roadkillers extensively here, so be warned. Okay, on to the show. We start the conversation with how she got into films. Hello, Direk Rae Red. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just jump into the first question. I wanted to ask, what is it about making films that you find so interesting?
I guess kasi from an early age exposed na ako sa films because my dad, my tito, a lot from the family are in filmmaking. But I guess what I really like about it is it's an audiovisual medium, no? So I took up creative writing kasi and I realized in that course na hindi ko natatagalan na naiiwan lang as a text yung isang literature. So I need to see it come alive, whether it's through a play or film. So ako gusto ko lang talaga yung medium niya. I like that you can do a lot with it. Shift from POVs. Ang dami, parang sky's the limit with this kind of medium. So, ayun. And I guess the stories that I want to tell, I feel is best told through film. So, ayun.
Wow! So you're not satisfied with it just being unwritten text. How do you go about that? Like, when you write something or when you direct something, how does written text for you become alive?
I guess depende sa ano. Kasi in college, kasi I realized na hindi ako nakokontento sa written text because of a playwriting class I took. Tapos doon, nung nakita kong nag-come alive na siya, na-realize ko the story can grow a lot more through inputs from actors, through inputs of whoever's directing it. And nagiging mas collective siya na experience as opposed to ang ending ng buhay niya is this written text na it could be so much more. So parang, I guess in terms of the stages, parang ano siya eh, I'm also still learning. I mean, to be honest, parang ano siya, really the whole point is collaboration. That's what I like the most about it. So parang just gathering everyone's inputs and then we'll see from there. Parang ganun.
I think that's cool kasi it means that you're actively collaborating with so many people at the same time. And yeah, I feel like when you write something and you involve other people, like it could be so much more. It transforms into so many things.
Yeah.
And I want to ask more about like the nitty-gritty of like writing and directing. But before I go there, in terms of writing, whenever you write scripts or screenplays, do you visualize na how that scene is supposed to go? I mean, because you have a directing background as well.
Yeah.
Like, does that happen naturally for you now when you're writing? Oh, this is the scene that I want.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, some people call script writing directing on paper. So, for sure, part yun ng process. Ideally, when someone reads the script, na-visualize na nila ano yung shots. So, for example, if ang shot natin ikaw, I would describe your eyes more if I envision it na may close-up tayo sa eyes more or something. But yeah, definitely nagdi-direct na ako while sa paper. In fact, ako nga feeling ko na-discover ko about myself recently na mas dun, majority of my direction happens during the writing process. Kaya nahihirapan ako mag-direct ng something na hindi ko sinulat. I think writing, kailangan you have to think in film. And yeah.
When you write your scripts, how do you, I guess, deepen the plot? How do you develop the characters? Like, for example, in the process of filmmaking, diba? So you start with the script. So, how do you develop that? How do you develop the script into something that you think would be interesting to watch?
I guess iba-iba, no? Because some of the screenplays I wrote are like, I'm a writer for hire. So there's already a concept na I need to work on. But like, for my passion projects, like for example, I have a film called Babae at Baril. Nanggaling yung germ ideas just because I imagined a character na naka-point yung gun, na walang gun. Ganito talaga. And from there, naisip ko bakit ba sobrang intriguing for me yung visual na yun. And then, doon na naglabasan yung, I guess it starts from a feeling, what do you want to say? And in the case of Babae at Baril, gusto kong mag-expose ng inequality sa kababaihan. Gusto kong ipakita yung galit ko towards the injustices. So yeah, it starts from that feeling and then humuhugot ka ng actual things that can happen. And of course, there are all these parang standards on how to write a screenplay. Like, you need to get to know your character. I think countless books are written about that. But in the end, it's may kanya-kanya tayong pagkilala sa characters natin. And I think doon lumalabas yung sarili nating taste when we put our own voices on it. So parang, I guess nahihirapan akong i-answer yung question as to how. Because like, it depends on each project. But yeah, I guess naging case study ko na ngayon yung Babae at Baril. Yeah.
Let's talk about Babae at Baril for a second. For those who aren't watching, you gestured kanina, kasi we have podcast listeners, you gestured kanina na it's a person pointing their finger like a gun. Na yun yung, I guess, what helped you germinate the idea. So what was that like, yung process na yun? So how did you go from that pose and then you said you wanted to show yung injustices that women feel in society, and express your anger? How did that go about? Because you wrote Babae at Baril, and you also directed it. Maybe you could share a bit more about like the details that happened in between.
Yeah. Sa akin kasi, I find it really hard to write something just on my own nang walang pressure. So I usually use call for entries ng mga Key Cinema or Cinema One or whatever festival there is, no, to force myself to write. So even if I don't get in, I use that deadline as an inspiration to write. So ayun, I targeted, I think, Cinemalaya at that time. And then, I guess parang inisip ko bakit ba intriguing sa akin yung visual na yun. And what I realized is may outbursts ako na parang minsan gusto ko to gawin. And I think in the film, I don't know if familiar yung mga tao, but like basically it's about this woman who comes across a gun and picks it up, and then she starts using it, to parang take revenge. And this was just really a fantasy na parang if you have that much power, what would you do with it? I think I also entered a workshop, and then from that workshop, it's a workshop by June Lana. So they also had inputs on they helped me parang flesh out what I really want to say. Tas yun, I think dun ko nakuha yung na galit lang ako sa lalaki. Hindi, joke. Pero yun, I also in writing, sabi ko kayo na introverted process siya, but also ang common practice sa creative writing, sa course ko, and sa workshops is to really have someone read it and comment and help you. So I guess collaborative din siya in that sense. Kasi ma-realize mo ano ba talagang gusto mo sabihin, ganun. So yeah, the very first draft of Babae at Baril was just, tawag namin suka draft. So you just, or para siyang clay na isusuka mo lang. And then that's when you start to shape it, mold it. Parang ganun. Basta, the first draft was trash. But like, I think that yun lang, parang isusuka mo lang siya. But the first draft is pure emotion din. And then that's when you eventually have someone read it. They, unti-unti mo siya malalagyan ng structure. I think later on, kasi Babae has this parang timeline play. Later on na yun dumating.
Oh, really? This is yung parang, I don't want to, not to spoiler alert. What are you talking about? The part where you where we
Baril.
see yung origins ng Baril?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That wasn't part of the original.
Because the original was a short film. As in, the original was just the Babae part. Tapos, pero ang title na niya, Babae at Baril. Tapos dun nga, sa workshop with June Lana, we were tasked to do a full-length film. I didn't have any full-length ideas. So, naisip ko, baka pwede natin i-stretch to. And thankfully rin, kasi na-realize ko, the Babae part can't stand on its own. I mean, ako, what I really want to see is may intersectional ang issues ng babae sa class. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that was, I eventually realized na kailangan yung part na yan. And that came through having someone read it, and then having someone comment, and then saka mo siya ma-realize.
When you're the writer, do you ever feel protective of what you write? Or are you open to like other directors or even the actors themselves to chime in and say, hey, maybe we can do this instead?
I think at the very beginning, I think common writers, or common artists, parang issue siya na you're very protective. And very understandable kasi it's your voice, it's your sensibility. Pero habang tumatagal ako sa industry, na-realize ko, yun nga, there's a lot that you may not realize. Some people compare it to cutting your own hair, di ba? Na parang try mo gupitan sarili mo sa mirror and you can't see the back, so you need someone else to help you. So parang I've gotten less protective over the years, but yeah, parang I think it's finding the right balance of preserving your voice as well as taking in everyone's input.
When you direct films, how do you ano yung delineation between you as a writer and you as a director? Or when you write and direct, does it kind of go together?
Sa case ko, I mean, every director's different. No? Pero sa case ko, I have to write my scripts. I mean, I've had scripts before na iba nagsulat, but then I have to write my own draft right before shoot. Just because, like what I said earlier, I direct on paper. So, when I write my own draft, same naman nung ginawa ng other writer, but like iniiba ko yung, kasi andun na yung blocking, andun na yung nuances. Especially if I know who's gonna play it or if I know the location we're shooting at. So, nire-revise ko na siya accordingly. Yun yung process ko, but I mean, that's just mine. I mean, I know a lot of directors na kaya nilang mag-direct from someone else's work.
So I watched Babae at Baril. I also watched Tenement 66. And then I watched the first episode of Roadkillers last night. And when I was watching your films, I had this parang overpowering sensation where I forget where I am Like, it was so funny because I was watching last night, Roadkillers, and then my sister, she walked up the stairs and called for me, and then parang nag-snap back to reality ako. Kasi parang, oh right, I'm not in there. I'm here in this world. And I wanted to ask you how you're able to, I guess, do that to people. You watch a scene, it's limited within a frame, but you draw people in. Through those, I guess, tiny details that you experience when you're watching something. Like, okay, specific example, I'm rambling. Specific example is in Tenement 66. I kind of felt like, I felt the humidity of the place. Parang ramdam ko yung pagkakulob nung building complex. Like, so how are you able to translate that as a writer and as a director for your films?
I think it's just watching countless films, and I didn't know I was doing this na. Pero like, nung student pa lang ako, watching cinema, I mean, every time may film festival na pupunta sa UP, I would watch films kahit na hindi ko alam ano yung synopsis, I don't know anything about it. Tas hindi ako aware na I'm taking note of things made an effect on me. Like, right now, may mga shots ako natatandaan sa specific films na gusto ko gaya. But like, but yeah, parang totoo yun eh. May moments na you don't know why it made you feel something, and I try to replicate that. Like for, I don't know, for Tenement 66, it was a collaboration between the PD, which is Mikey Red, my brother. Nepo baby. So yun. Pero yun, kasama siya na gusto namin na nakakasakal yung environment. Gusto ko magustuhan din ng audience na makalabas sila. So visual yung medium, yun nga, audio-visual siya. So you maximize both those to have the audience feel something. And thank you kasi actually yun yung ultimate goal. And ako rin, yun yung basis ko when watching a film kung maganda ba is if I get lost, parang if I forget everything around me. Sa Babae at Baril, may yung napkin ginanon sa tindahan. Tapos may shot na unti-unti bumubukas yung napkin. Tapos I copied that from, I don't know if you watched No Country for Old Men.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Basta may scene doon na it's also sa tindahan din. Tapos may si Javier Bardem na actor, parang may slinam din siya sa ano. Tapos you slowly see the paper parang uncrinkling. And ang ganda-ganda niya visually, and may something haunting sa shot na yun. So ginaya ko. But yeah, I take note of those things. I take note why it made me feel a certain way. And I think may nagtatanong din sa akin nun like, paano ba yun? I mean, like, for students of films, no? Parang, ang lagi ko sinasabi is, parang be aware when you're feeling something while watching a film. Kasi that's how you take notes eh. Parang, bakit yung music na yun made this effect? I mean, you ask bakit until you realize bakit nga yun effective for you. And kasi the same scene, the same movie might not have the same effect naman, diba? To other viewers. So yeah, all you can do is ano yung nakaka-affect sa'yo as a person and try to channel that.
Up next, Fanboy Even Harder. We talk about Direk Rae Red's influences, how filmmakers earn a living, and what advice she can give to someone who wants to break into the industry. Speaking of things that make you feel certain things, no? And, I'm trying not to spoil ulit so many things that you worked on. This is the first sequence of Roadkillers. So I don't think I'm technically spoiling anything, but when the opening scene of Roadkillers on Prime Video, starring Nadine Lustre, wow, when it was rolling, the scene starts off na parang she's singing, and then you think she's alone in the car, and then you realize, oh, she's not alone, she's with someone. Then you realize, oh, it's a dead body and she's acting as if nothing's happening. Tapos, like, there's this sudden silence bigla. That made me feel disoriented so much. But at the same time, I was parang drawn in as well. I felt like I started seeing all the technical stuff that you did, the kinds of shots, like the choices of angles. So sobrang yung thought process ko nung time na yun. It was like, were they using a drone? Were they... So wala lang, parang, in other words, I'm just geeking out. Like, it was just so effective as an opening scene.
Thanks.
Were there influences there for that, maybe that scene in particular, so that we don't spoil the rest of the show? And it's a very good show, by the way. Were there any parang inspirations for that scene specifically? I mean, it kind of felt like a Western, to be honest, which I know is also an influence for you.
I mean, if Babae at Baril had that visual, ako, for Roadkillers, ang main visual ko before there was any plot to begin with was that body on the trunk. Was that parang, tas mawawala yung body sa... Spoiler ba? Hindi naman. Pero, nasa trailer naman. But so parang yung idea na yun. Tas saka lang ako nag-build ng story around it. Pero, so that scene was the first scene that was written. And even before it was physically written, napapanood ko na siya sa utak ko. So, I don't know sometimes kasi may mga influence ako na later on ko na lang na-realize na, dun pala galing yun. Like an example, sa Babae at Baril may scene na si JC Santos, parang may time-lapse tayo and then JC Santos opens the drawer and then he looks for a long time, he looks at the gun and you don't know if he's gonna take it or not. And at one point yata umalis siya sa... Wait, I'm not sure if that's what happened sa edit, but the way it was written on script, he left the frame and when we stay on that empty frame na wala na yung actor. And then suddenly babalik siya to get the gun. I mean, kakala ko original yun. Tapos later on, nanonood ako ng Signs ni M. Night Shyamalan na big fan ako. Tapos may ganun din pala na si Mel Gibson. Ganun, umalis na siya sa frame, tapos empty frame siya for a long time. And then, bumalik. Pero hindi ako aware na ginagaya ko yun. I mean, later on na lang na dito ko siguro nakuha yun. Ganun. I think it's yung, in terms of the shots and the inspirations, parang, dahil siya yung una kong nasulat, it's very specific na in my head. And that's what's haunting for me, so that's how I directed it. Ayun. And I guess visual inspiration, kailangan talaga, isa yun sa number one rule ko, sabi ko sa cinematographer, kailangan nararamdaman natin yung init. Kasi Pilipinas to, and I don't like it when I watch some Pinoy films, tas parang ang cool nung grading. Kasi that's not the Philippines that I know.
I wanted to ask about Babae at Baril kasi so the film, it felt very gritty. Parang ramdam ko yung dumi. That doesn't sound so nice, pero ramdam ko yung dumi. How were you able to do that naman? Like, what were the technical things that you and your cinematographer had to make sure were there to make that happen?
Yung Babae at Baril, this isn't exactly on purpose, no? Pero like, yung Babae at Baril, it's an all-girl team. Except for the production designer na lalaki. Tapos parang, nung una, may nagsasuggest pa sa akin, dapat all girls na kayo, ganyan. Pero na-realize ko, parang yung mundo na ginagalawa ng characters is parang built by men. So parang baka okay din na may ganong touch. So Aero Francisco, I think, it's credit is to him yung pagka-grittiness nung the way he designed yung kwarto ni Babae. And also, it was really important for us na gawing sobrang dumi ng streets kasi it needs to, so dapat sobrang contrasting siya when she finally enters the department store.
Come to think of it, the mall scenes nga felt clinical to some degree just because it was so bright. And now that you're pointing it out, parang wala lang, I'm just realizing your genius again.
And I think if I remember correctly, we used more dollies inside the mall, so that made for a smoother camera movement as opposed to pag nasa streets kami handheld, so mas gritty yung ano. So, yeah, parang it was yung cinematographer ko, si Take Lamore. It was very important to us din na may iba rin yan na shots na before Janine got the gun, mas smooth yung namin, camera movements. When she finally gets the gun, doon na nagiging literally nagsha-shake na yung mundo niya. And yeah, parang may mga pa kami dyan parang clean lang. What I mean by clean is walang, like for example with this shot, wala yung shoulder ko. It's just Janine. Whenever it's Janine on screen. But when it's another character, dirty yung shot, meaning may foreground. Yeah, things like that. That's why I love collaborating with, especially yung constants ko, sila Take Lamore and Air Francisco. Kasi we get to talk about those stuff and we really take time to shot list everything.
So si Janine, who played Babae, all throughout, I guess, the first parts of the movie, you feel her shrinking, you feel her na parang she doesn't have any control in her situation at all. Pero when she finally finds the gun, I felt like that was the first time I saw her strut. Like, nag-strut siya bigla in her room. And I wanted to ask if that was intentional from your end or was that something that Janine did on her own?
We talked about it. Parang, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if binigyan ko siya ng assignment, but like, I made her mark dun yung mga points na nagkaka-shift siya. So parang,
shift
in terms of, at the beginning medyo, nahihirapan ako not to spoil, but at the beginning kawawa siya, ganyan. Tapos lalo pa siyang naging kawawa. But then she slowly, parang she slowly regains power. So, parang may markers yun eh. I think Janine's script had those highlights at which point yung character niya. So part yun nung, diniscuss namin. So yeah, it's really prep eh. I mean, I think, siyempre si Alfred Hitchcock ba nagsabi na, pinaka-boring daw na part sa isang production is the actual shooting. Kasi if you prepared it well, ina-execute nyo na lang. Parang boring na yung actual prod. Kasi you talked about everything na eh. The color of the clothes. So, yung actual execution is boring.
Because everything's so planned na.
Yeah,
no more surprises.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you? Everything is so well planned, no more surprises on your own set?
Parang impossible yan sa film, and lalo na sa isang third world country na may malilate, may this biglang. Originally, we had 2 cameras. Isa lang yung dumating. Dami ko kinukuha. But like, sabi rin ng isang friend ko na directing in the Philippines is not really so much about your visuals. It's more about being a good problem solver.
Ooh.
Parang it's thinking on your feet. Parang thinking of ways to parang
make do.
Make do or thinking of a compromise. Like, I know certain, like, from experiences of friends na parang hindi sumipot yung actor kasi mali yung nasabing schedule sa kanya. So, hindi siya available. So, parang, ang nangyari, backshot na lang. They had someone wear a wig. Ano mo yun. Tapos, when you see the final outcome, parang it worked naman. So, I don't think anyone would be able to tell. So, quick thinking on their part yan.
Yeah.
So,
and editing magic. Do you have any like favorite scenes that you can share with us in the films that you've worked on? And maybe you could talk to us about how you pulled it off.
Ang hirap magsabi ng favorite kasi whenever you're in the moment, all I can remember is the stress, wala kang tulog, walang ano.
How about the scene that you're proudest of? Na nagawa
but
niya siya?
I'm very proud dun sa Babae at Baril, yung scene ni JC and Elijah Canlas. Because it was parang feeling ko, tama yung casting ko. And kasi hindi, like, nilaban kong i-cast si JC for that. Like, nag-meet lang kami sa isang inuman, tas I got his number, tas nagpakapal mukha na text ako na in-explain ko. And I know he comes from theater, and it was important for me na galing sa theater yung mga actors. It's the one where nasa basketball court sila, and binabentahan niya ng balut.
Right.
Na parang super happy ako na sa casting na both Elijah Canlas and JC Santos were super excellent on it. Minsan kasi parang, I guess, Roadkillers naman, that opening scene, parang, well, we were shooting it, bilad na bilad kami, but then, when you finally see it, along with everyone's work, no, score, sound design, grading, parang nakakatuwa kasi, di ba na-mention ko kayo na hindi yun planned. Like, the drone shot wasn't planned. Parang, may drone tayo, gamitin natin. Parang, it's just, but nakatulong siya. Parang siyang, parang mga buzzer beater moments na, oh shit, it worked. Parang buti na lang nakalusot.
Yeah, and it looks great.
Yeah, maraming ganun sa films. Maraming, last ditch effort siya.
How about scenes that were difficult, and how did you come like whatever difficulty that you had to face for that?
Pinaka-difficult for me just because it's super sensitive, and sometimes I regret even doing the scene was the... Is it spoiler?
I feel like I know what you're gonna talk about, and I agree.
S-aid. S-aid siya sa... Si
Babae.
Yeah. And while we were doing it, parang pinaalis namin lahat ng lalaki sa set. Tapos I was constantly asking Janine, parang, sabihin mo lang at any point if you feel uncomfortable, titigil natin, ganyan. Tapos parang sumaklolo na ako sa cinematographer ko kasi she's older than me, she has more experience na parang, paano ko ito gagawin? Ganyan. I was making the shot list on the day off. And like, I think it's just because ang sensitive ng topic. And even the actors, I mean, even the si Felix Rocco wasn't into it. Parang na-frustrate din siya na he has to do it. And sometimes parang napapaisip ako, like right now, kung necessary ba siyang scene? Parang nagaganon ako kasi I get na it might have re-traumatized some people. But yeah, ang hirap kasi it's not like theater. Theater, like when you make a mistake, on the nenext run,
you can just remove it.
Yeah. But film is, andyan na siya. It's on Netflix. Parang hindi mo pwede tanongin yung Netflix. Can you guys re-upload this version?
I agree. It's such a sensitive topic, diba? It's triggering. And how do you even make the actors parang, agree, I guess? Like, okay, that scene was very effective, I'd say. Janine did a great job. Sobrang na-crush ako at that moment. Pero how do you go about that?
Feeling ko it was luck. I mean, like, when we got Janine for Babae at Baril, I watched some of her work and I knew she was good. Pero I had no idea how she was gonna tackle that scene. I mean, kaya nga parang feeling ko, sometimes directors are credited too much for the work, but it's really the actors and the cinema. It's a collective effort. Ang sinabi ko lang kay Janine before, not before that scene, but like when I was, introducing her to the character, sinabi ko yung galit ko, yung everyday galit ko, like minsan sasakay ka sa jeep, may lalaking tatabi sa'yo na nakaganito. Tapos itong hand niya na to, dumidikit sa breast mo. Tapos parang, it's a tiny instance na ang dali i-write off as hindi naman nangyari, ganyan. But like, nangyari siya eh. Tapos kinento ko yung mga ganong instances kay Janine. And I think nagalit din siya. So parang, and I think when we talk about it, sinasabi rin yun na it's those stories daw that really parang made her enter her character. But yeah. So yeah, nag-sharing lang kami. And some of the women din sa cinematographer, si Take Lamore, and producer ko, si Ana Bernardes, also shared their stories. So, yun. So, napagalit namin si Jane. And then, parang that's how she got into character.
I wanted to ask about what it's like, I guess yung medyo paperwork side of being a writer or a director. When you have an idea, how are you able to turn that into a project?
Ang very first entry ko kasi, I made a short film. I knew na making a short film would be like an essential para sa CV mo, sa filmography mo. So, I always start from there. Like, kahit na full length yung concept nila, make a short film version of it or get a scene, make that into a film. Kasi, like, you can use your phone, you can, parang just get it made. Parang, kasi later on naman you can tweak, you can make a better version of it once you get more budget. But like, grants are very important sa Namalayak, cinema. That's why I think thriving, I don't know if that's the right word, but like, I think kaya maraming filmmakers sa Pilipinas compared to our like neighboring Southeast Asian countries. Kasi because of those grants na yun nga, mga funding, that's why, and I think ganun din naman ang Korea, di ba? Because of government support, kaya sila that's why they have what they have right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just get it made, feeling ko. Yun yung first step. And then if you have friends who are directors, pitch it to them. I would say kasi iba-iba yung process. Like if you have a mainstream idea, then you can pitch it to Star Cinema or Viva or whatever. Pero kung you feel na gusto mo i-preserve yung voice mo, gusto mong passion project mo to, and ayaw mo ng ibang comments, or you feel like it won't make money, which isn't a bad thing, then I think independently produced films are the way to go. So
there was an interview before where you said, candidly, that being a director isn't as glamorous as it seems. It's not as income generating as some people might assume. So for you, like, how does that happen? Because I'm sure a lot of filmmakers are wondering the same thing, diba? Especially like if they're a student and they want to start making films. How do you make money out of your work as a filmmaker? Is it just the grants, or are you able to like earn when your movie is released? Or
bihira sa Philippines ang may percentage ka sa yung ownership mo. May share ka sa sarili mong work. That's why nung pinapanood ko yung binabasa ko yung pinaglalaban ng writer's strike sa America. Pero nainggit ako. Nandiyan na kayo. Kami, ito palang pinaglalaban namin, hindi pa namin makuha. Parang, so yeah, it's really work for hire ka. Parang writer for hire ka. So you only get that fee na binayad sa'yo upfront. But like, if it makes money, sometimes you get bonuses. But, I mean, sa industry, rarely do we have theatrical successes, only in MMFF, or like, kung may box office hit man, it's usually the exception, diba? So, but yeah, so usually it's just the fees na you negotiate.
It's a very technical question. No, but I really, I mean, when I was a student, I actually thought that I would also be in film. Like, that was my goal. And me and my friend, we actually started doing like music videos, parang as our creative outlet. And I really thought like that would be my path. Pero I couldn't see it. Like, parang nasisip ko, I don't know how to earn from this. That's why, like, I feel like a lot of people would find that piece of information useful. That's why I had to ask it.
This is a film. I mean, like, ad directors make a lot more. Pero like in parang local films, parang I guess it depends, no. If you've made the name, then money won't be a problem. Pero even if you've like I said nga, nakita ko yung dad ko and my tito na roller coaster yung sometimes they were really rich, but sometimes di namin alam ng dinner. Alam mo, like ganun siya ka extreme. So parang I think that's ako rin as a freelancer right now. Yun yung tinatry ko na I'm binavow ko na never ako so I want to ask so many more things, but I guess I need to start wrapping up. Are there ideas that you have come up with that you just found, this is too weird, so I'm not gonna work on it? Not weird, but like for example, I have a concept na coming of age. I've always wanted to do a coming of age film. Pero na-pressure ako kasi it's parang, is it important to get made? Parang yun yung question sa akin eh. Parang, I mean, ang daming problema ng Pilipinas. Tapos gagawa ka ng angst mo nung high school. Alam mo yun, parang it feels, lalo na after I made Babae at Baril na parang women's issues, parang so political. Tapos biglang gusto mo gumawa ng angsty teenage film. Parang it feels, does it need to be made? Parang I think may mga ganun ako sa sarili kong concepts na if I make a film, I want na yung fire to do it is always there na parang this needs to be made. Parang Babae at Baril, I felt like I need to make this film. May ganong urgency, and I think yun yung naano ako. But I guess after making something so political, lahat naman magiging pale in comparison. But yeah, I want to make more personal films. I want to make, but tingnan natin.
If an aspiring writer or director approaches you, say, for example, maybe they're a student, and asks you for, I guess, like a top tip that you can give, what advice would that be?
Yung parang mention ko earlier, it's just isuka mo lang. Kasi nothing will ever come out. I mean, you can't get to the final draft unless like you make this really shitty draft first. So I think yun na yung horror of staring at a blank white page and actually starting something is yun yung malaking hurdle. So parang just do it, parang isuka mo lang, itae mo lang. Parang, and then saka natin siya mapapaganda once you get over that.
Okay, so Roadkillers starring Nadine Lustre is on Viva One, and people can watch it through the app. Are there any future projects that you'd like to tease? Right now, yung deadline ko. No, I'm writing an adaptation of Mango Bride. It's a Palanca Award-winning novel by Mary V. Sullivan. So that's what I'm working on. And I'm also developing a series, pero we'll see where it goes. Because sa industry kasi sabi nga nila, isipin mo hindi siya tuloy unless you're actually on the set na. Oh.
And some people, naka 6 days na sa set, biglang hindi pala tuloy. So yeah, I don't want to say the name of the project yet.
Thank you so much, Direk, for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could talk more, but I'm gonna geek out na lang later. And that was Teach Me Senpai. I'm Julian Cernio. Thank you guys for watching.